Now, March 26, 2015, this is after the first Australia trip and after the staircase incident. I'm going to ask, Michelle, can you bring up Depp Exhibit 371A? This is a tape recording, and it's going to be at 1 minute, 1:01 to 2:29.
Could you say that times again?
Yes, it's 1:01 to 2:29. And if we could, I don't know whether you had turned up that volume. I know it's hard to hear these.
Is this in evidence already?
I'm moving it into evidence, Your Honor, but these are the tape recordings between the two, which I think we had agreed.
Is there any objection to 371A?
Your Honor, if you just give me a moment to confirm there's no other voices.
Plaintiffs. Yes, okay. It's not in evidence, though, is it?
It's not in evidence, Your Honor, so could you please confirm that there are no other voices?
I will confirm that.
Okay, all right.
And it's Depp's exhibit.
Right.
It's Mr. Depp's exhibit.
Plaintiffs 371A then, any objection?
No objection.
Okay, 371A in evidence. Thank you.
And we may need to, Sammy, if I could just, if you listen, we may need to turn that volume up. Sometimes your control is a little bit better than what we have, Max.
I see somebody who's changing always into different versions of a person that I recognize for a brief moment, and then he slips away and he disappears. And then I get a different version of him. I get the insecure, scared version of him that lashes out in a different medium every time. So if it's Adderall junkie Johnny, then he's abusive and he's a bully and he's a tyrant and he's mean, he's reactionary and he's incendiary, and anything I do and say is cause for violence or anger. If I speak to him honestly, bluntly from the heart, I'm yelling at him. If I argue back with him, then I'm abusive. If I don't say anything, then I am dismissive or absent or it's wrong or somewhere else. If I engage with him, I'm part of the problem. I'm yelling, I'm mean. If I don't engage with him, then I'm part of the problem. No matter what I do, I'm fucked. Because if I look at him the wrong way, he's a problem. If I say the wrong thing, God knows what it is. I'm the problem. I'm the problem. Either way. That's the guy who's on a bunch of fucking speed.
What did you mean when you were saying that to Mr. Depp?
That no matter, my perception was that no matter what I did, no matter what I did to de-escalate, walk away from him, to confront him, to try to, nothing I did made a difference. Nothing I did changed his rage at me. Nothing I did changed the violence towards me. Nothing I did calmed him down. And I was constantly doing a juggling act of what kind of version of Johnny I was dealing with. There were different versions of him, and they were drastically different from one another, and even more so than them being different from one another, they didn't even sometimes remember what the other version did or said. They acted almost like independent versions of this person, depending on what combination of drugs and alcohol he was on. That's what I was trying to express to him. It's just the futility of me responding and successfully, and the futility of trying to constantly negotiate with him and the substances he was on at the time.
I'm going to take you to April 15, 2015, the premiere of When I Live My Life Over Again. What, if anything, did you do for that premiere?
I believe that premiere was in New York City. It was a small independent film I shot. I went back to New York to attend the premiere.
Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 421, please? Does this accurately depict the scene portrayed in this picture?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 421.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 421 in evidence.
May we publish to the
Publish to the
jury?
jury.
Thank you. Amber, could you please describe for the jury what this picture is?
That is a picture of me a few months, I believe this is April of 2015, so it's a few months after the March incident that happened in Australia, early March, in which Johnny held me down on the countertops and my arms were cut on the glass
And
in that attack.
And if we could draw attention to your arm there, are those scars? What are those? Please describe for the jury what those are.
Those are scars that I obtained while Johnny was strangling me and assaulting me on the countertop in Australia.
Okay. Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 423, please? And does this accurately portray the scene shown?
Yes, that's...
Hold on a second. I'm going
Yes.
to move the admission of Defendant's 423, please.
No objection.
423 in evidence.
Thank you.
Publish.
May we publish? All right, and please describe to the jury what this shows.
It is a picture of me on a red carpet. You can see my scars. Even though I have makeup on them, they're a bit harder to cover because they're rather fresh.
Okay. Now, after this, in April of 2015, you returned to Australia with Mr. Depp, did you not?
Objection leading.
Overruled, I'll allow it.
Thank you.
Yes, we did.
Okay, and tell the jury about that trip.
Well, after Johnny was able to get clean off of the coke and the other drugs enough to get the hand surgery he needed, there commenced a period of time of sobriety for Johnny. His doctor had fired him and then came on when Johnny agreed to get clean.
Objection,
So there was this-
hearsay, non-responsive.
Don't say what, I mean, we've already had, Your Honor, we've already had the testimony from Dr. Kipper, but don't say what Dr. Kipper did. Just tell the other part. Just don't say what somebody else said. Okay?
So there was this period of sobriety after that, and Johnny was very committed to being clean and sober, and I thought we had finally done it. We finally did it. We were through it, and we were never going back, meaning he was going to be clean and sober for good this time, and we had a wonderful period of, we fell back in love, or deeper in love than we were before. It seemed things were so good. We were talking about a future again. We were talking about having kids. I mean, when Johnny wasn't using it was so peaceful. We had a good time together. We went back to Australia like that, in that state, and had a few months. We even had my parents come and visit us in Australia, and we were talking about babies and about buying a farm and, looking for homes in California. And we were in a really beautiful, peaceful period. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Now, did you stay at the same place that you did the earlier time in Australia?
We went back to a very remodeled version of that home. I mean, remodeled, very cleaned up version of that home. Same walls, same structure, but looked a bit different, as you can imagine.
How did you feel going back to that home, given what had happened in March, early March?
The home isn't the problem. If you're living in domestic violence, you don't just not go home. You don't just not go into the kitchen just because you were slapped in that kitchen. People living in domestic violence live in their homes. That's almost, the home isn't the problem. That's the normal part of your home. And for me, Johnny was my home. Where we were a couple was my home. And that home was often really violent. But it wasn't the structure itself. It was Johnny. And when we went back to Australia, that home, Johnny, was in a completely different, he had done a complete 180. Clean, sober, present, calm. We were peaceful. I mean, any of the gripes and the problems that he seemed to have about me went away when he was sober. And so we had a really, we managed to go back to that same house, but in a very different way. It felt very different.
June 16, 2015, the Magic Mike tour. Where did you go for that tour?
While I was in Australia, I got the call for that press tour and went to Europe for the press tour for that movie. And, you know, I was nervous because problems arise when I'm having to work, when I leave.
Objection, non-responsive.
That was still responsive.
Well, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Michelle, can you please bring up Defendant's Exhibit 447? I'm going to ask you first, does this accurately portray the scene depicted?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 447.
No objection.
447 in evidence. You can publish.
Thank you. And Michelle, if you could zoom in just a little bit closer. Amber, could you tell the jury about this picture?
Yes, that's me on the red carpet promoting the Magic Mike movie I was in. You can see the scars on my body, on my arms.
Okay.
You can't see everything, of course, but...
Okay. And Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 449? And Amber, does this accurately depict the scene portrayed?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's 449.
No objection.
All right, 449 in evidence.
Okay.
Publish.
And Amber, could you please describe to the jury what this portrays?
This is, you can see the scars on my arm from that attack. Also around this time, Johnny was calling me on the phone before and after, you know, while I was doing these press events, and sometimes I would be on the phone with him, kind of managing accusations about why I didn't pick up sooner, didn't text back sooner, and sometimes I actually on this tour many times had to delay getting out of the car or...
Objection, non-responsive.
I'll ask that. How did Mr. Depp react to your going on this press tour?
He was very upset with me. I just remember crying on the phone with him a lot and having to hang up to go do press events.
All right. Thank you. Now, I'm going to take you to the southeast